And here we have more examples. Yo trabajo en Buenos Aires. I work in Buenos Aires. En Buenos Aires llueve seguido. It often rains in Buenos Aires. Yo limpio mi casa seguido. I clean my house often. Caminas 200 metros, luego doblas a la izquierda. You walk for 200 meters, then you turn left. Ok, nos vemos a las 5 p.m. Ok, see you at 5 p.m. Su madre llega mañana. His mother arrives tomorrow. Él llega a casa, deja su abrigo en el sillón y se prepara un té. He arrives home, leaves his coat on the couch and makes himself some tea. We could see here in these examples, for example, again, the word order similarity between Spanish and English. For example, the first sentence, yo, I, trabajo, work, and the rest is also the same. So here, for example, word order is exactly the same. The second one is not the same word order, okay? We could also rewrite this sentence to make it more similar to English. You know, we could say llueve seguido en Buenos Aires, which would be more similar, okay? And also I mentioned that, for example, in this sentence, llueve is it rains, okay? In English, you would need two words, it and rains. In Spanish, that translates, that is translated as llueve. Okay, but we could also, as I was saying, we could rearrange the sentence, you know, so that it can be, you know, around 80 or 90% the same word order, okay? I'm talking about that, okay? Yo limpio mi casa seguido. Yo, I, limpio, clean. Me, my. Casa, house, seguido, often. Same thing, okay? Caminas 200 metros. Okay, here's another detail. Also interesting to mention is that in Spanish, many times we don't use, okay, the pronoun, okay. In English, I would say 99% of the times, you know, we know that either I, you, he, or any pronoun is used in the sentence, okay, and it's not omitted, okay. But in Spanish, that this happens a lot, okay. But for the rest of the thing, you know, it's the same. Caminas 200 metros, walk for 200 meters. Okay, you have there the for, which is just an additional, okay. There are things that are said, you know, in different ways, okay, between one language and the other, of course, okay. Luego, then, doblas. There, the pronoun again is not mentioned. Turn left, doblas a la izquierda. Okay, this example is a little different. That this example can show you how, you know, it's very similar, but also things are kind of, you know, said in different ways. In one sense, as we mentioned, for example, in this sentence, for example, about the pronoun, okay, that it's omitted in Spanish many times, and because of, for example, words that are added, connectors, you know, those small words that are added, you know, like a la izquierda, or walk for 200 meters. That for, you know, we don't have it. We don't. Maybe we could add it, okay. But the thing is that also the example, okay. Many times, the thing about the translations is that this is also something else. That the translations many times are one way or another. Okay, many times the translations don't need to be necessarily word by word exactly the same. The thing is, to get across the meaning of what is being said. Okay, and continuing, marcadores de tiempo, time markers, siempre, always, nunca, never, usualmente, usually, frecuentemente, frequently, seguido, seguidamente, often. Okay, so this is the same thing as in English, as you can see. And so here, about how to conjugate verbs in Spanish. Okay, so I'm gonna, make a summary of this so we don't make it just too long. The thing about the verbs in Spanish is that different from English, it's not too constant, okay? It's probably a little bit more laborious than in English, okay? And so, the reference that the most important, a reference that we could have to make it more easy is to mention that there are regular and irregular verbs, just as in English, okay? But as I was saying, it's kind of different because, it also has more variants, okay? But in summary, regular verbs, it's like, quote unquote, the same thing that in English, but you're gonna see now that it's a little different, okay, because a little bit more extensive. But I'm gonna explain you. So you have regular and irregular verbs, okay? The regular verbs are verbs that are gonna, follow a certain ending, okay? A certain, fixed way when conjugating them. And the irregular ones are the contrary, okay? Verbs that won't follow, a same ending, But what happens is that it's kind of, we don't have, any reference in the word, okay, to know if the verb is regular or not. Also because, for example, there are also verbs that can seem regular, okay, if we mention for example, that most regular verbs end in ar, er, or ir, as we can see here, okay. But there are also verbs that end in ar, er, or ir and are not regular, okay. So here is what I was telling you, okay. It's not just all the times the same. This is why, summing it up, what I advise you is to have a list, write a list for yourself where you can, write the verbs that you learn, along the time that you study, and add those verbs there, okay? A list of the regular verbs and a list of the irregular verbs, okay? This is my best advice, because again, there's kind of no way of knowing when a verb is, regular or irregular. And also, as I mentioned before, contrary to English, it's not like in English. For example, in English, for the present simple, same thing we are talking about here. For the affirmative, only the third person changes, okay? For example, I go, you go, he, she goes, okay? S or variants of S, okay? But basically it's an S that it's added, okay? We go, you go, they go. So the only one that changes is the third one, okay? In Spanish, this is just not this way. taking into account these things that make it different from English, what I advise you is to, as I mentioned, to have a list or have two lists if you want, okay? Have a list for the regular verbs and have a list for the irregular verbs, okay? And you just add there, the words that you, search for, and get to know if they are regular or irregular, okay? So you add them there. So the regular words, follow, a common ending. You can see this here, okay? Words ending in ar, words ending in er, words ending in ir, okay? For each of the pronouns, how those words are gonna change their endings, okay? That's only for the regular verbs, okay? We can point out that for the negative mode we use no or no and the same word as in affirmative. For instance, él no está, ellos no están, yo no estoy, okay? The same word than in affirmative, but with the no, before the verb, okay? And for the question mode, we just write this person and also the same verb as in the affirmative mode, with the question mark at the end, of course, in any order. For example, él está, which would be the same to está él, and the first is the most used. And so, to get to know if the verb, to write that list for you, okay, to know if the verb is, regular or not, okay, you can either check, for example, the conjugation tool in word reference. I mentioned this here. Also, you can use that to check, meanings, pronunciations, examples, etc. And also for the conjugation, or maybe more easily, just check, in any online resource if a word in Spanish is either regular or not. But you should also know that this is, a reference, because even if you, do that work of making a list of regular and irregular verbs, then you're gonna have to know, mostly for the irregular ones, okay, the irregular ones, how they change, okay? So that is something else also, okay? Because the regular verbs, as you can see, it's easier. So once that is a convenience, okay? That is the something that is, something that makes it more easy, okay? Regular verbs, once you have them in your list and you know that they are regular, you just know, like, for this chart that we just showed, that according to the end, how they are gonna change, okay, when conjugated for each of the pronouns. Okay, so for regular verbs, once you have them in your list, you know how it works, and it is, the easy part, okay? But then for the irregular verbs, you will have to learn. You will have to learn how they change, okay? So again, this is just a reference, okay? This is a reference, but it can help you, okay, to know. Like a preliminary, as I was speaking about at the beginning, so that you can know how this stuff works, okay? And at least, make it kind of easier, okay? Because if you can, start, separating regular verbs from irregular verbs. At least it will make it a little bit more easy, given that, in principle, it's kind of, we could say, a lot more laborious, than in English, which is more constant, all right? And, going on, also here we have a chart of, basic words, okay, that you can learn and have, as examples, maybe you can write sentences with this. We're gonna give that example later. So here you have sentences to complete in present simple, okay, and you have a word between brackets, that you can. The idea is to conjugate it, okay. So in this way you can exercise, okay, the for example, what we mentioned before, okay, things about, for example, how be works, ser, estar, tener, haber, okay, and also to get to know about other words, okay, because we always, between brackets, there's a verb, okay, an action that should, match, that should be conjugated for the pronoun, okay, that appears in the sentence, okay. And this is a very common exercise, the conjugation exercises to complete with the word, because precisely conjugated words is, and why is it something that appears a lot when learning languages, is because precisely the words that change the most are probably should be the words that you should mostly want to know, okay, and get to know more, precisely because they change. So if they change, of course, logically, it would be, relevant to us as students, to know how they change, okay, and okay, so doing this kind of exercises, precisely exercises your memory and your knowledge, okay, to get you used, to how this works, okay, in Spanish. Because the rest of the words, besides, as we talk about, besides the word order, okay, besides that, there's not much that changes, okay. And also we mentioned that it's very similar, but it's a different aspect, okay, because once some words, I mean, the other words don't change, okay. Besides the word order in the sentence, they don't change according to the person that speaks and so on, okay. So words that change are, like, in principle, the ones that we would be most interested in knowing about and practicing, precisely because they change. The rest just stay, always the same, so it's like less difficult, you know what I mean? Then there are some things, also just anything else on the topics, the study topics, and the study program, things like, for example, the articles. For example, in English, it's always the, the, the car, the house, and in Spanish, it can vary, it can be masculine or feminine, and, there's not also reference of, that's kind of irregular, if you want, like in comparison with the verbs, because, we can't know if it's gonna be one or the other one. For example, that is something that changes, okay, or that is particular, okay, to the language. So there are, some things that you will want to get to know, okay, how they change or how they are, said in Spanish, okay, but yeah, that's of course, another study topic. So for example, here the first one would be, hola, mi nombre es María. Okay. Hello, my name is María. Ser changes into es. The second one, él mira el show de TV todos los viernes. He watches the TV show every Friday. Okay. Ellos van al parque todos los días. Do they go to the park every day? See, for example, there, check this that word out. Ir. Ir means to go, okay? And it changes into van. Ellos van, short V-A-N, van al parque todos los días. So ir changes to van. So you can see that's an irregular verb, of course, okay? Okay, and we could go on here with many more examples, okay? And this is the work that we would be doing, in lessons online. If you have lessons, if you choose to have classes with me, okay? Of course, as I always say, along with any other material that we can find useful for the learning, okay? And another exercise here. Now try and write your own sentences, around 20 as a suggestion. You can use the words from the previous nouns, verbs, and adjectives chart. So here, this is, for example, something that can be very interesting because to put your creativity to work a little bit, that can be also interesting, and also for you to kind of maybe find which things you would want to know, okay? Because if you sit and think about different scenarios, things that you would want to know how to say, okay, that can be a very interesting exercise, okay? Thinking just of anything that you would want to say in Spanish, okay? And you can take days and time to do this, okay? Because this can happen just at any moment that maybe you're just doing something that does not have to do with learning Spanish, and you may want to know, but how would this thing be said in Spanish? And you can write that, okay? It would be probably interesting for you to give some space for an exercise like this that can precisely give you an exercise to get to know some specific things that you personally would want to know how to say, okay? How to say this, how to say that, okay? Like the typical question, how do you say, one of the first things that most speakers learn in any language, okay, to ask to natives, for example, if they travel or whatever, okay, how do you say this, how do you say that, okay? Same thing here, but with sentences, with long sentences and stuff, And then finally here we have some common elements, days of the week, months of the year, numbers, how to say numbers, colors, and the time, how to give or ask time, okay? So well, people, I hope you found this useful. This was a presentation of what a first lesson would be. And remember that if you want to schedule classes with me, just write to me through Telegram, WhatsApp, or whatever, and we can arrange that.